Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior leader from the iconic brand Lego and an author from Denmark, Mr. Robert Rasmussen. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Robert is the principal of Rasmussen Consulting. He has worked for the Lego Group from 1988 to 2001 as head of R&D for Lego Education, and is an author of a book titled Building a Better Business with Lego Serious Play Method.
Yeah.
So Lego, Robert, my first question to you, what inspired you to join Lego in 1988, and what were some of the key projects you worked on in the early years?
My background is educator and teacher, and at that point I was working as a principal and educator, and
Okay.
I've always been really fascinated in how children are engaged in learning and motivated for learning in the early years of school.
Mm.
And and then when they get into fifth, sixth, no, fourth, grade, they kind of lose the interest. So, and at the same time, my interest was in science and technology.
Mm.
So I was actually thinking about how could I maybe enjoy more working, doing hands-on learning with children. And then this position as a project leader came up in Lego
Mm.
to develop more. How can you learn science and technology from making stuff out of Lego bricks? So I
Yeah.
said, well, let me try it, and then I applied for it and got the job.
And as they say, the rest is history.
So yep, the rest is in a way history, and and then that led me to, I became the head of this little department in Lego Education, and I suppose one of my most famous projects is probably the Lego Mindstorm. I
Mm.
also became the liaison person between MIT's Media Lab and the Lego company.
Mm.
And saw the idea that Seymour Papert was working on, the idea how could you put a Mac 2E into a Lego brick and
Mm.
I enjoy it.
How amazing. And what was the biggest challenge you faced while developing Lego Mindstorms and Lego Serious Play?
I wouldn't sort of call it a challenge, but I think that both the Lego Mindstorm and Lego Serious Play in many ways were ahead of its time.
Hmm.
So how can you, in the Lego Mindstorm, how can you learn math and how can you learn science? How can
Mm.
you learn, by making robots and
Mm.
then program them? So I think that getting people, yeah, this is really, really good idea. And I think the same with Lego Serious Play. In
Mm.
many ways, Serious Play was many, many years ahead of its time.
Mm.
I think
Amazing.
yeah, so it's probably, yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about Lego Serious Play. How did the idea come about and what were its origins?
The origin was that the current owner of the Lego company, which is a private company, already in the mid 90s, felt that his executive team was not really able to imagine a future where Lego wouldn't just grow, 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 that
Mm.
they meet growth challenges.
Mm.
And he had found that his children, or his not his children, but his executive team had a hard time imagining that the company might be able to change in order to be competitive. So he thought this idea, well, you know what? We talk about bricks being good for children's imagination. Can they also be good for grown-up imagination?
Mm.
And at the same time, Lego's leadership development happened at something called the IMD in Switzerland, and a couple of
Mhm.
professors there, Johan Rose and Bart Victor, did some did some leadership development. And so the three of them got together. Well, maybe we can do something with bricks that can work for
Mm.
executive teams. And then
Mm.
they worked on these ideas for 2 or 3 years and couldn't get anything to work. And then Kjeld Kirk Christiansen asked me, Robert, your expertise is how can you learn stuff from making stuff out of Lego? Can you look at this idea? So that's, well, let me look at the idea.
Mm. Wow. And you know, I worked for large companies like you did for Lego. When something like this comes up in front of top management, there is always a little bit of uncertainty and questions and disbelief. What was the initial reaction within Lego to the concept of using Lego bricks for business and leadership training?
Kjell Christiansen knew this would never have a chance.
Hmm.
So he actually, from the very, very beginning, says, I do not want this to be part of the Lego company. This is
Hmm.
why he established a small company called Executive Discovery.
Hmm.
So it was developed outside of mainstream Lego. It was developed outside of the boardroom and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So because ultimately it would never sort of actually make it in as a business.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think it's taken many years to get it generally
Yeah, yeah,
accepted
yeah,
within the Lego company.
absolutely. But tell me, Robert, what are some of the fundamental principles behind the entire Lego Serious Play methodology that you developed?
The 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 main, you can say, the secret sauce is that when it's a technique to help groups be more effective.
Hmm.
It's a technique so when people have to gather around the table, because whatever they're responsible for, they cannot do in isolation. They
Hmm.
somehow need to think together, they somehow need to communicate together, they somehow need to make decisions together.
Hmm.
When people do that, it's typically 20% of the people around the table that use
Hmm.
80% of the talking time to talk about what they always talk about.
Yeah.
And 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 we even know they are going to talk about that before the meeting even begins, right? And
Hmm.
then the meeting ends by saying, "Do we all agree?" And people say yes, but they're just tired. And the first thing that happens when you're outside the meeting room at the coffee machine is, "I don't believe this is going to
Yeah.
work."
Yeah.
The whole problem is it begins with talking.
Hmm.
And it begins with talking from the people that sort of talk the most, right?
Hmm.
The 20-80 syndrome, the problem is not the 20%, the problem is the 80%. You do not
80%.
get half out of the 20.
Hmm.
So whenever it begins, somebody says, I think the solution to this, and then the next goes, yes, I think so,
Hmm.
right? So the secret of Lego Serious Play is actually it begins with thinking instead of talking.
Hmm.
It begins with the individual opinion instead of the group things, right? So
Right.
instead of just begin talking, the essence is, well, here's the question. Everybody build their answer to this question using the Lego bricks,
Hmm.
give meaning into the Lego bricks, and then when everybody is done with thinking, we can just start talking what everybody has done, right? This is in a way, it's actually very, very, very basic.
Yeah.
The hard part, of course, is which question to ask people to build
Absolutely.
to get to talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah. And not only that, the hard part is to get a leader and someone to lead to be able to make this basic change in the minds
That's
of
true.
people.
That's true, but that's also why um, I often get this question: so, is there a specific industry or a specific, sector that uses Lego Serious Play? My answer is
Hmm.
not really. It's more to do with the leadership and the management.
Absolutely.
I experience that people that want to use Lego Serious Play, they somehow want to break their habitual way of doing something. They
Hmm.
want to do something different than what they normally do. They're looking not just looking for improvement, they're looking for paradigm shifts. They're looking for finding a new level of how they collaborate, how they make
Hmm.
decisions.
Hmm.
So that's why
Fascinating.
they're also looking at this end. Well, if you keep doing the same things the same way you've always done, you're going to
Hmm.
get the same place where you always been, right? So they're
Absolutely.
looking for different
Hmm.
ways of
Hmm.
making decisions, different ways of involving people and stuff like that.
Fascinating. Great response. Thank you. And Robert, how does the method accommodate different types of thinkers, such as visual, analytical, or kinesthetic learners?
I think I would turn it around. The reason it works so well
Is because of
is
them.
because
Okay.
if you're very visual, you can look
Uh,
at the bricks, right?
yeah.
If you're very auditive, you can listen to the stories, right? If you're
Mm,
very spatial, you can see the spatial, right?
mm,
If you're very sequential and sort of left brain thinking, you can make it systematically. If you're really right brain, you can build based on that, right? So I think
mm,
the reason it works is because whatever your learning style is, whatever your preferred method, whether you are introvert, whether you're extrovert, because I don't have to look at you, I look at the model. I think the real power is that somehow it taps into any person's learning
Mm.
style. That is one of the secrets why it works.
Mm. And can you give me an example of how this works, maybe without any names, of course?
Well, everything is customized. I often get there is nothing off the shelf in Lego Serious Play.
Mm.
So whenever we do a workshop, it's always customized to that specific client's need. So
Okay.
whether they want to find a new way of collaborating, whether they want to become more proactive in dealing with their interdependencies, whether they want to somehow come up with a new innovation strategy.
Mm.
So the beauty of it is
Right.
that no, I often get this question. So what is next in Lego Serious Play?
Mm.
I say nothing is next.
Yeah.
Beauty of the method is it's really, really robust. It works
Mm.
really, really well. So the question is, oh, it can also be used for this. Oh, it can also be used for this. Oh, it can also be used for this. Oh, it can
Mm.
also. So it goes
Mm.
anywhere from, from education to big strategy to marriage counseling to team building,
Mm.
whatever it is.
Wow. Wow. And how do you ensure that every participant, regardless of background or seniority, feels comfortable contributing during an NSP session?
My you can say major contribution is how do you get people confident, right, with
Mm.
this? So we have a way of starting a workshop the first time people do Lego Serious Play,
Mm.
which is geared towards that. So whatever we know exactly, how do I get everybody, regardless of background, how do I get them into the process? How do I get them to build? How do I get them to tell what they built? How do I get them to participate?
Mm.
Uh,
Amazing.
It this took us many years to refine that
Yeah, I'm
because,
sure. I'm
because
sure.
obviously it is what we call a 100-100 meeting. Everybody
Mm.
must build, everybody must participate, everybody must share, right? And
Mm.
we just know exactly how to get people into that process.
Amazing. And what is the science behind using hands-on engagement for problem solving and innovation?
Well, if you think of everything that an individual knows as a big triangle, say here's
Mm.
all your knowledge about whatever I think, then there's research that shows that we are only able to be conscious about 5 to 10% of what we know. The rest,
Mm.
the 90 to 95% of what we know, we actually don't know we know.
Mm.
So the big question is how can you bring some of the subconscious stuff up to the conscious stuff? The science behind it is really that, and this is what Seymour Papert and all this, that when you build with your hands, it actually builds you up here.
Mm.
So so if you think of this triangle of what you know and what you're conscious about knowing, and so okay, I know I'm going to make this decision because,
Mm.
actually unlock some of the subconscious stuff by using your hands. That's why I often ask people a question, say, hey, could you build the answer to how could you actually change your innovation strategy? Yes, I can build. How much? You have 5 minutes to build that, and people, that's impossible. I know the answer, but I have no clue. Right? Well, just start building,
Mm.
and then after 5 10 minutes, people say, "Hey, I did not know I knew this." So there's a whole bunch of signs that when you build here, it helps you build up here.
Fantastic. Now, have you seen Lego Serious Play create cultural shifts in organizations?
Oh
And if
yeah,
so, can you share an example?
no,
Okay,
no,
we'll we'll skip the question then.
no. I think this because, and again for two reasons. I think whatever we learned in these workshops is really sort of confidential, right?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
and and then everything is unique to that specific. So
Mm.
this is one of the hard parts about people
No.
about Lego Serious Play because it's hard to imagine how can building with these actually bricks, how can this actually change our culture,
Mm.
whether it's a big medicine company or whether it's a small team or whatever it is in this
Mm.
case.
Mm. Amazing. So, based on all the work that you must have done with so many different companies, what are some common misconceptions about Lego Serious Play that you often encounter?
One is that it's a prototyping tool.
Mm.
it's a prototype because you build models out, and it's not right. It's a metaphorical tool.
Mm.
So the elephant is not a real elephant. It's an elephant in a room and stuff. So
Mm.
this is that it's an icebreaker method. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun, but we can't really solve real problems with it, right?
Mm.
These are two of the biggest misconceptions, right?
Mm.
And this, oh, yes, it's fun and play, but it's not really serious, right? Oh, it's a
Mm.
prototyping tool. That is
Mm.
part of the biggest misconceptions about it.
Fascinating. One more question regarding Lego Serious Play, then I have a couple of questions for your book. If someone wants to introduce Lego Serious Play into their organization, what is the best way to start?
Lego serious play is a facilitated technique.
Mm.
And that's why it takes a lot of training to become a facilitator, because it's much more than just getting people to build bricks, right? So if they want to do it, then then hire a facilitator who is trained and discuss what is what is what is it, why do you want to use Lego Serious Play? What is it that what is it that you hope to change as a result of doing this Lego Serious Play workshop here? And then people say, well, we just want to have a good time. I say, well, that is great, but then it's not me. Then
Sure.
go and buy some Lego bricks and have fun, right? This is originally the tagline is play with a purpose.
Mm.
So if you want to introduce Lego Serious Play, you need to have a real issue, meaning that I know if I'm going to discuss this with my team, I will get a 20-80 syndrome. I will get 20% of the people doing all that is talking and the 80% saying nothing. So if you want to change that, get hold of Lego Serious Play facilitator, sit down with this facilitator who will ask you what is it that you are trying to understand, and then design a workshop specifically to your need.
And
But it
are
has
there,
to be real. It has to be a real issue. Not,
absolutely, I
yeah, we
agree.
just want to have fun.
I agree. But are there trained facilitators available all over the world, or do they have to
Yes,
come?
totally all over the world. I think
Oh.
this is one of the big surprises that it seems to work across culture, across
Mm.
language, across company.
Mm.
Yeah, it seems to somehow really strike something that is just unique to humans. So it really doesn't matter high, low, introvert, extrovert, this part of the world, that part of the world. It works all everywhere.
Well said. Robert, let's talk about your book, Building a Better Business with the Lego Serious Play Method. Tell me about your book and what are some of the key takeaways from the book readers should focus on?
The reader should focus on learning more about the science behind the method, because it
Mm.
is a highly learning science driven method.
Mm.
So you can read the book. If you want to become a good Lego Serious Play facilitator, the book doesn't, it's not a how-to book, because it's not possible to write a how-to book about how to do Lego Serious Play. That would be like teaching somebody to ride a bicycle online without having a bicycle.
Mm.
So they should be interested in the science. They should be interested in how is the science facilitated to this.
Mm.
So it will give you the background for it. It'll also give the a quick background of the method. But it's not a substitute for going to a facilitator training.
Mm.
So you should have this desire or need to go deeper and understand what are the mechanics of the method, why does it work.
Mm.
And of course, there are some examples also,
Yeah.
but in general.
Yeah. So I was just going to ask you, can you share an example from your book?
Again, I know you want to do it, but it is. I have tried so many times to give people explain people a Lego Serious Play workshop, but they don't know Lego Serious Play, and every time I fail, because Lego Serious Play is an experience.
Mm.
So I'm sorry, I
Okay,
don't.
no worries. So we're just asking people to buy the book and read it, and they'll get all their examples.
Yeah, but again, the examples, and that's the hard part about.
Mm.
People will ask me, "Can you tell me what Lego Serious Play is?" No, I can't, but I can
Mm.
show you. It is an experience. Lego
Sure.
Serious Play is an experience, and when you've experienced it for 30 minutes, okay, I get it now.
Mm. Okay. But on that note, Robert, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me. This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. I know that did try to get some answers which we need to be able to really experience Lego Series Play. But thank you for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Yeah, and then go and experience it, and then you will understand.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.